Hello, how is it going, everybody? Today we're jumping into Matthew chapter 25. So let me get that text up on screen here. And also, let me make sure we're not lagging here. Okay, we're good on that front. Let's get the text up. There we go. So let me get my Bible out and we can get started. Today we're leading up to the crucifixion today. We're not touching the crucifixion yet, but we're going over the arrest of Jesus. So we're leading right up to it. But before that, Jesus has a few more parables to tell us. So let's get started with that. Get the volume up here. All right, let's go.
Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins, who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. But while the bridegroom was delayed, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight a cry was heard, "Behold, the bridegroom is coming. Go out to meet him." Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, "No, lest there should not be enough for us and you. But go rather to those who sell, and buy for yourselves."
The first thing I'm thinking of is it's very different. It's different. Remember, Jesus was saying, don't take 2 tunics with you. Don't pack food with you when you're going on out to minister, just take what you have, like take the clothes on your back and go. I'll provide the rest. Teaching them not to think in a materialistic way. Think from a bigger picture, right? It doesn't matter if you have only 1 pair of clothes, 2 pair of clothes, 3 pair of clothes. Don't value material things, because that's not the focus here. I feel like he's trying to help them separate themselves from the rest of the world so that they can look at it from a different perspective, right? And part of that is planning ahead via material things, but that's what they're doing here. And it seems like that's the wise thing to do. So, well, I mean, this is a parable, so let's see what it means in the end.
And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, "No, lest there should not be enough for us and you. But go rather to those who sell, and buy for yourselves." And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered and said, "Assuredly, I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming."
So, always be prepared. Prepared for what? Prepared for the second coming of Jesus. And we talked a bit about this yesterday, where what's our mindset? We shouldn't be like, hey, we need to obey and live good lives in order to reap the rewards of heaven. That's not the goal. That is the goal, but that's not how we should be thinking. We should be obeying, being good, because it's the right thing to do, right? That's who we are as people. Get that foundation right, and you don't have to worry about anything else. You'll reach the goal. You'll be ready when God comes, You shouldn't only be being on your good behavior because you want heaven, you want to go to heaven, or because you're anticipating the second coming. Because that's going to tire you out. Because what if Jesus doesn't come in a year? What if he comes in 10,000 years, Are you by the time you die, you're just going to be like, you'll start to question, wait, is he coming? Is he not going to come? What is this? What am I doing this for no reason? Because you'll start to think like that because you don't have your foundation set. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're doing it for a reward. You're trying to attain a goal. But that's not how we should be thinking. Yes, you're going to have a prize in the end if you're faithful and Jesus comes. But the way we should be thinking is I am building my house on the rock, right? I'm getting that foundation set. And I don't care if it's 1 minute or 50,000 years. The foundation is good. I don't have to worry about anything else, right? So that's what Jesus is trying to say here. I mean, that's not necessarily his point here. His point here is that Jesus is going to come at any moment, so be ready. But how to be ready? How to be ready is get your foundation right.
For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability, and immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them, and made another 5 talents. And likewise, he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also, who had received 2 talents, came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid, and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. So take the talent from him, and give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
I gotta read a commentary for that. Is he a wicked servant for returning the money to Jesus? Or, to the master? He didn't steal it. He returned it as it was given to him. He just didn't multiply it. And I also do like how it's saying, you've been faithful over a few things, and I will make you ruler over many things. That's also that's really good for not just in this case, in this in this parable, but in the sense that, hey, start small. Don't jump into the big things. You don't have to jump into the big things, But I mean, that's not really the point of this. Let me pull up a commentary. Matthew 25. Okay. A man traveling to a far country who called his servants and delivered his goods to them. This was not a strange idea in the ancient world, where servants, slaves, were often given great responsibility. This was often the safest and smartest thing a man could do with his money. The best thing he could do with his money in his absence, dividing it among carefully selected slaves and leaving them to do their best with it. This parable takes up the question which that of the bridesmaids left unanswered. What is readiness? Right? We talked about with the parable with the bridesmaids was be ready. And then it looks like this parable is answering what is readiness. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. A talent was not an ability, though this parable has application to our abilities, but a unit of money worth at least $1,200 in modern terms. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a lot of money. I didn't realize it was that much. And likely much more. A talent was not a coin, it was a weight, and therefore its value obviously depended on whether the coinage involved was copper, gold, or silver. Okay, so then how do we know? We don't even know if it is 1,200 because it's the unit of weight, and it could be a unit of weight of what? I don't know what. The English use of talent for a natural or supernatural aptitude derives from this parable. But of course, the Greek talenton is simply a sum of money. It was generally regarded as equal to 6,000 denarii. If a talent were worth 6,000 denarii, then it would take a day laborer 20 years to earn so much. Whoa. Well, I'm sure a talent is a lot because that one guy, that one slave, he hid that talent. He didn't want to lose it. So he acted out of fear. In the application of this parable, it is appropriate to see these talents as life resources, such as time, money, abilities, and authority. To each according to his own ability. The servant, okay, so see, they weren't being judged on how much they returned, but on their own ability. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his ability. So it was the talents were given out according to their own ability. So like he wouldn't have given the guy with the 1 talent 5 talents because maybe he couldn't have handled 5 talents, you know? So God's not going to give you more than you can chew. The servants were given different amounts of money according to their ability. One servant only received 1 talent. Yet we should see that this was not an insignificant amount. Some received more, but everyone received something, and everyone received a large amount. The talent which each man has suits his own state best. And it is only pride and insanity which lead him to desire and envy the graces and talents of another. 5 talents would be too much for some men. 1 talent would be too little. He who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them. Each of those who had received talents from their master did with them as they saw fit. 2 of them traded with their talents and earned more talents. The point is that the good servants felt the responsibility of their assignment and went to work without delay. So they took some initiative. They didn't just do the bare minimum, which was the master gave them this and we'll keep it safe. No, they went and multiplied it. We aren't told how they traded with their talents. Perhaps they loaned the money at interest. Perhaps they used the money and bought things and sold them for more money. I wonder if the master would have gotten upset with them if they lost money in their investments. Would the master have been okay because they tried? The point is that they used what they had and gained more by using it. we can say many good things about the work of the first two servants. They did their work promptly. They did their work with perseverance. They did their work with success. And they were ready to give an account to their master. He who had received one went and dug in the ground and hid his lord's money. The third servant did almost nothing with his master's money. He took some care that it would not be lost by hiding it, but he did nothing positive with the master's money in contrast with the first two servants. The thing is, so he didn't do something bad, which is why I don't understand why the master called him wicked, you know? After a long time, the master of those servants came. The long delay would tempt the servants to think that they would never give an account for their management, yet they most certainly would. So you could be looking at this as, God gave us responsibilities. God gave us gifts, talents, and He wants to see what He gave to us when He comes back. We should have multiplied it. We shouldn't have stayed stagnant. So staying stagnant is equivalent to being wicked. God gave you these gifts and you didn't make use of them. Are talents here supposed to be equated to a gift? Like a talent? Like playing the piano, writing, singing? Talents like that? After a long time, the Lord of those servants came. The long delay would tempt the servants to think that they would never give an account for their management, yet they most certainly would. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you a ruler over many things. I really like that. The reward was the same for both servants, even though one was given 5 talents and the other was given 2 talents, because each was given according to their own ability, right? And they performed, relatively speaking, equal, right? Each performed the same according to the resources they had received. Well done, good and faithful servant. This shows that the master looked for goodness and faithfulness in his servants. Whatever financial success these servants enjoyed came because they were good and faithful. The master looked first for these character qualities, not for a specific amount of money. Well, I mean, percentage-wise, they made the same. So, it is not well done, thou good and brilliant servant. For perhaps the man never shone at all in the eyes of those who appreciate glare and glitter. It is not well done, well done, thou great and distinguished servant. For it is possible that he was never known beyond his native village. It is better to be faithful in the infant school than to be unfaithful in a noble class of young men. Better to be faithful in a hamlet over 2 or 3 score of people than to be unfaithful in a great city parish. Yeah. All right, we get that point. Enter into the joy of your Lord. This has the echo of heaven in it. Yeah, it does. The idea is that there is a place of joy belonging to the master of these servants, and they are invited to join the master in that place. There's a sense of heaven about this destiny for the 2 faithful servants. So God is not looking at the outcome, right? He's not saying, hey, look, you didn't give me 5 talents. That you gave me 2 only. No, he's looking at your ability. He's judging you on your circumstances. Right? He's judging you fairly based on an individual basis. I gave you 2 and you doubled that. I gave you 5 and you doubled that. So it's not how much you turn in at the end. They both did equal amounts according to what they were given, Then he who had received the 1 talent came. The master judged each servant individually. If they were taken as a group, they did very well. 8 talents given and 15 talents returned. Yet each one was judged on their individual faithfulness and effort. Effort is the key. Because I feel like all of them were faithful. It's just that 2 of them put much more effort. One acted out of fear and hid the money. Remember, my hearer, that in the day of judgment thy account must be personal. God will not ask you what your church did. He will ask you what you did yourself. So we can't be passive in our actions. We have to take action. By not doing anything bad, that doesn't mean we're good. We have to do good. I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown. The servant who merely buried his talent, trying to excuse himself because of his master's great power. In fact, he believed his master to be in some sense omnipotent, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. When I heard that, I thought he was like a bad guy. He was like, he's taking from other people because he didn't scatter seed there, but he's reaping. So he's taking from other people, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's talking about he's omnipotent, right? Because it sort of reflected heaven in earlier, right? And this is an analogy, a metaphor for Jesus' second coming, right? A hard man, grasping, ungenerous, taking all to himself, offering no inducements to his servants. So he was scared to be punished because he was a hard man. F.B. Meyer expressed the thinking of this servant. I can do very little. It will not make much difference if I do nothing. I shall not be missed. My tiny push is not needed to turn the scale. Yeah, so he's insecure. He's acting out of fear. And God's not going to feel sorry for you if you are that way. No, you need to grow and overcome that. It is the genius of wicked men to lay the blame of their miscarriages upon others, oftentimes upon God himself. Look there you have what is yours. The third servant seemed proud of himself because the master was so powerful, and in the mind of the servant didn't need his help. Yeah, so he's really insecure. He has no value in himself. The third servant thought that the master would be pleased that he did nothing and could say, "Look, there you have what is yours." He seemed to have no idea how much he had displeased his master. See, the thing is, I don't understand why the master called him wicked. I can see why the master would be displeased, because he wants the best for his servant. He wants a servant to be able to come to to enter into the joy of the Lord. We can say in the third servant's favor that at least he still understood that what he had been given had belonged to his master. He said, "You have what is yours." Many modern servants of God think that when God gives them something, it no longer belongs to God. It belongs to them, and they can do with it as they please. Yet, albeit this man was doing nothing for his master, he did not think himself an unprofitable servant. He exhibited no self-deprecation, no humbling, no contrition. He was as bold as brass and unblushing, and said unblushingly, "Lo, there thou hast, that is thine." He didn't think. He didn't work. He didn't even try. He made excuses. He's acting out of fear. Yeah, so if you are insecure, if you're scared to take action, if you don't know what to do, those are all things you need to overcome. It's hard to overcome those things, and it's hard to find out where to start to overcome. But start small, right? God, the master put them in charge of little things, and because they prevailed, he'll put them in charge of even greater things. So maybe start with something even smaller than a talent. You know, you have to build your confidence so you're not scared. And I don't know, it's challenging. But yeah, really, really, really small things. and slowly build up. Right? We want to start at the foundation. You can start at 0. It's fine to start at 0. You don't have to feel insecure about starting at 0. You can start at 0, build up a little bit at a time. It's okay to have tiny bits of progress, right? That's how the first two did it. They invested tiny bits of progress over time, and they doubled the money. So in the same way, we can work on ourselves in that way. So you're not scared. So you're not going to be like this third servant, and we can get to the point where we'll be able to invest what God has given to us. We'll know where to invest what God has given to us. Sometimes we're worried, at least me, I overthink and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Or there's too much to do. Or I'm scared and I don't know what to do. So I don't do anything, But you got to start small and start doing things. And I mean, it's sort of cliche to say that doors will open up. But as you do one thing, another thing, you'll gain confidence, and you'll be less scared. And hey, maybe the guy might have invested half of that talent. You wicked and lazy servant. See, that's what the end goal ends up being. We don't want that. He's not a bad guy. He's not a bad person. But the end result isn't good at all. We want to get away from this. We don't want this. So don't sit around and do nothing. You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown. The condemnation of this third servant here, called a wicked and lazy servant. And also another thing, the first two, they were able to recall everything that they've done, right? How they invested the money. So that's the other thing. Keep record. Write things down. Right? When you write things down, I don't know. Something happens when you write it down. It's easier. You feel like you have some control over it, I guess, because it's written down. And that will help with your perception of the whatever situation you're in. That'll help with the way you're thinking, with your mindset. And because you feel a bit more control, you won't be as insecure, you won't be as scared, and be able to take action sooner. The condemnation, I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you guys. So the condemnation of this third servant here, called a wicked and lazy servant, was strong. Yeah, calling him lazy, I understand. Calling him wicked, that's strong. The sovereignty of the master never excused the laziness of the servant. It condemned that laziness all the more. Those who don't work for the Lord or pray or don't evangelize because God is sovereign condemn themselves by their laziness. By their actions or their lack of action. They show that they are like the wicked servant in the parable. They do not know their master's heart at all. The Lord of the unprofitable servant tells him that the fault lay in his own sloth and wickedness. Yes, sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins. So even if sloth comes from a place of self-pity, of insecurity, of fearfulness, that's what is all those things are all negative things. They're coming from the devil. They're weaknesses, right? That's not something God wants to see. And his dread of his Lord's security was but a mere frivolous pretense and unreasonable excuse. The charge against the servant who merely buried his talent was that he was wicked and lazy. We rarely see laziness as a real sin, something that must be repented of before the Lord. If laziness were a calling or a spiritual gift, this man would have been excellent. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. This man could have done something with what he had. Even if it had not doubled, it would have gained some interest for the master's money. If we cannot trade directly and personally on our Lord's account, if we have not the skill nor the tact to manage a society or an enterprise for him, we may at least contribute to what others are doing and join our capital to theirs, so that by some means our master may have the interest to which he is entitled, right? Something. Have some effort in there. Don't do nothing, right? Show some initiative. Try to be better. Try to do something with what is given to you. That's the lesson from VeggieTales, Lord of the Bean. Lord of the Bean is their Lord of the Rings parody. The Old Testament forbade Israelites from charging interest against one another. But interest on money loaned to Gentiles was permitted. By New Testament times, Jewish scholars had already distinguished between lending at interest and usury in the modern sense. For to everyone who has, more will be given, but from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. There are those who have things, like the servant with 1 talent, but hold them in such a way that it is as if they have nothing. So you shouldn't be stingy either. Do something with what has been given to you. Don't be scared you're going to lose what you've been given. These ones will find what they had taken away. Those who hold what they have received as faithful men and women, to them more will be given. See that ye receive not any grace of God in vain. Neither envy those that have much. A proportion is expected. We need not wait for the great future to obtain this multiplication or withdrawals of our talents. They are already waxing and waning in our hands. Cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. Because he was wicked and lazy, the third servant demonstrated that he was not a true servant of his master at all. See, that's sad. This is really sad. This is something that can be avoided. He's not a bad person. He just let his fear rule him. And he didn't take action. He let his insecurity win. It is fitting that he and those who show the same heart was cast forever out of the master's presence. Dang.
Faithful over a few things, I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also, who had received 2 talents, came and said, Lord,
skip ahead.
you enter into the joy of your Lord.
Oh, we're way past.
When the Son of Man comes in his glory,
Ooh,
and all the holy angels with
that
him,
was right on the spot.
then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
Right, he is the shepherd. They're all his children.
For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, Assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me.
See? So this is, again, Big picture thinking. The righteous are good from the foundation, from the ground up. Right? They weren't doing good to appease God. They were doing things when they thought God wasn't even looking. You know? And that happens when you're righteous from the ground up. So that's why it's so important to get your foundation right. Build that foundation, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Everything else will follow just fine.
Then he will also say to those on the left hand, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not take me in, naked, and you did not clothe me, sick, and in prison, and you did not visit me." Then they also will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison, and did not minister to you?" Then he will answer them, saying, "Assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into eternal life."
Dang. So these people, again, they didn't necessarily do anything bad. They just, they just didn't take initiative. They didn't do the best that they could.
Now it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, that he said to his disciples,
"You know that after 2 days is the Passover, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified."
Then the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders of the people assembled at the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and plotted to take Jesus by trickery and kill him.
Not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people.
And when Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him having an alabaster flask of very costly fragrant oil, and she poured it on his head as he sat at the table. But when his disciples saw it, they were indignant.
"Why this waste? For this fragrant oil might have been sold for much and given to the poor."
But when Jesus was aware of it, he said to them,
"Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always, but me you do not have always. For in pouring this fragrant oil on my body, she did it for my burial. Assuredly I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told as a memorial to her."
That's true. We're reading it right now.
Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests.
"What are you willing to give me if I deliver him to you?"
I'm curious to know Judas's his motivation to betray Jesus.
And they counted out to him 30 pieces of silver. So from that time he sought opportunity to betray him. Now on the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus.
"Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?"
"Go into this city to a certain man, and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'"
So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When evening had come, he sat down with the 12. Now, as they were eating, he said,
"Assuredly, I say to you, one of you will betray me."
and they were exceedingly sorrowful. And each of them began to say to him,
Lord, is it I?
Lord, is it I?
He who dipped his hand with me in the dish will betray me. The Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born.
Dang. So was Judas locked into his fate? Did he have no way out of it? If so, that's not fair to him, right? That someone had to play this role, and was Judas locked into that? It would have been good for that man if he had not been born. That's real harsh right there. Let's see what my Bible's got to say about that sentence. 26, 24. I told you, man, my Bible, it all the tough questions I have for it, it literally skips it. It skips all the tough questions. This doesn't talk about it either. Let's look up Bible Hub, because they got multiple commentaries. Right, it's 24, right? Yeah. Awful as the words were, they have their bright as well as their dark side. According to the estimate which men commonly form, the words are true of all except those who depart this life in the fear and faith of God. And applying them to the case of the traitor, it is exceptional enormity. There is suggested the thought that for others whose guilt was not like his, existence, even in the penal suffering which their sins have brought on them, may be better than never to have been at all. Literally, if it were good for him if that man had not been born. Jesus says this knowing what the fate of Judas would be in the other world. There is no hope here, held out of alleviation. I mean, it is the truth, right? Judas won't be, I don't think Judas will be going to heaven, because he also killed himself too, right? Maybe if he felt sorry and changed his ways and tried to be better instead of acting out of fear like that third servant, acting out of, like he felt bad for what he did, right? And then he killed himself. Instead of doing that, and he should have tried to be better, maybe he would have been saved, but I don't think. It's not my place to even say anything about that. There is no hope here held out of alleviation or end of suffering or of ultimate restoration. It is a rayless darkness of despair. Had there been any expectation of relief or of recovery of God's favor, existence would be a blessing even to the worst of sinners. But my thing is, could Judas have decided not to betray Jesus? Or was he somehow stuck in that decision? Because now that Jesus vocalized it and Judas knows that Jesus knows, Judas could there make a choice. If it wasn't vocalized by Jesus, then you could say Jesus didn't really interfere with the events that were to take place. And whatever Judas did, and Jesus just knew about what he did. But by vocalizing it, making Judas aware, Judas could have made a decision there and altered history. So does that mean that he was stuck in that situation and he had to make that choice? I mean, there was no way out. It was his fate. And that's why Jesus said it was good. It would have been good if he was never born, because the moment he was born, it was already predestined that he was going to do this. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about that? It is a rayless darkness of despair. He had there been any expectation of relief or recovery of God's favor, existence would be a blessing even to the worst of sinners, for they would have eternity still before them in which to enjoy their pardon and purification. And in such case, it could not be said for them that it were better for them never to have been born. On one side of the mysterious problem connected with Judas and such like sinners, we may again quote, what is Christostom? Is this like some Catholic thing? What then, one may say, though Judas had not betrayed him, would not another have betrayed him? Right? Because if Christ must needs to be crucified, it must be by the means of someone. And if by someone, surely by such a person as this. Yeah, so are we tying, is someone always going to take the fall? And is that person's fate stuck to it? Are they like captives of their fate? But if all had been good, the dispensation in our behalf had been impended. Not so. For the all-wise knows how he shall bring about our benefits, even had this happened. For his wisdom is rich and contrivance and incomprehensible. So for this reason, that no one might suppose that Judas had become a minister of the dispensation, he declares the wretchedness of that man. But someone will say again, and if it had been good if he had never been born, wherefore did he suffer both this man and all the wicked to come into the world? When thou oughtest to blame the wicked for that, having the power not to become such as they are, they have become wicked. Thou leavest this and busiest thyself and art curious about the things of God, although knowing that it is not by necessity that anyone is wicked. That's why I don't read the King James Version. It sounds really cool, but I'm gonna have to read that again. Yeah, but nobody's. I don't think anybody's tackling that issue, and it's not something that we can know. I don't think. It's one of those like paradoxical type of situations. What if? Hey, Ricky, is that you? Yeah, Ricky. I've got a question. I don't know if you've been listening this whole time. Okay, so Jesus answered and said, "He who dipped his hand with me in the dish will betray me. The Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born." Talking about Judas and his betrayal of Jesus, right? So because Jesus has pretty much here revealed who the betrayer is, who the traitor is, by saying, "He who dipped his hand with me in the dish will betray me." And Judas probably recognized that, like, hey, I'm the one who did that. So it's, Jesus knows that I have intentions to betray him. And then saying, it would have been good for that man if he had not been born. Does that mean that Judas was tied to his fate? Because from the very moment that Judas was born, was he tied to that fate? Is that why Jesus is saying it would have been good for, if he wasn't born? Because somebody had to betray Jesus. And by Jesus vocalizing it, now that Judas knows that Jesus knows he's going to betray him, Judas can make a decision there, right? Because he knows that Jesus knows, right there he can make a decision. I will betray or I will not betray. If Jesus didn't say anything, you could say, hey, Judas is just making the decision that he would have made. And Jesus just knows the events, but he didn't intervene in the events by letting anybody know what's going to happen and who's going to do it, So do you think that Judas was tied to his fate there? But Ricky's saying Judas was a man, sold the secret knowledge for 30 coins. Yeah. That's why he chose him to... It keeps getting cut off. That's why he chose him to hold the coins. Wait. Who held the coins? Judas did... Wait. Who gave Judas the 30 coins? Who gave... I thought the Pharisees gave the Judas the 30 pieces of silver after he betrayed him. What do you mean? That's why he chose him to hold the coins. Am I missing something? Who knew? I mean, Jesus knew that Judas would betray him. My question is, do you think he was bound to that fate? Judas was in control. So if Judas was in control, right? Because now that Jesus knows that someone's going to betray him, he knows that Judas is going to betray him. He made Judas aware that he knows he's going to betray him. So if Judas is in control, Judas can make the decision in that point to not betray Jesus. But he still did. So do you think because he still betrayed, do you think he was tied to that fate? Like he had no way out? Like, why do you think Judas still went through with the betrayal? Did he feel the pressure of the situation? It's like, dang, he already knows that I'm going to do it. I might as well just do it. Like, I don't know. Do you think he was tied to his fate? I'm not sure. Because I don't like the idea of fate, where for the oil of the feet. See, I don't think it was written in Matthew, but that is it sounds familiar to me. The woman used up all the oil. Okay, so what's the transaction of the money? The woman used up the oil, right? It was expensive oil. And that oil was worth 30 pieces of silver? Woman, oil, 30 pieces of silver. Why was this fragrant oil not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor? Okay. But Mary's expensive perfume versus Judas 30 pieces of silver. Then Mary took about a pint of expensive perfume, made of pure nard, and she anointed Jesus' feet and wiped them with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But one of the disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It's worth a year's wages. Holy, that's a lot of money. And this is what we just read. That was from John. Ricky, so what's the connection with the 30 pieces of silver and the oil? Then one of the 12, one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priest, 15. Oh, no. That's verse 15. And asked, what are you willing to give me if I deliver him to you? So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. Mary's expensive perfume was worth how many pieces of silver? The ointment says merely 300 denarii, who is asserting the equivalent of a yearly's wage. What version are you quoting from, please? Yeah, is there a connection? Like, what are we trying to say? Is there even a connection between the oil and the 30 pieces of silver? And what do you mean Judas was given, where is it? That's why he was chosen to hold the coins. What coins? This symbolizes the redemption price of the bride, which was 30 shekels at the time. If the person is a female, the valuation shall be 30 shekels. It wasn't coins, it was knowledge. That's why he chose him to hold the coins. So you're saying Judas was a man, sold the secret knowledge, right? It was knowledge that they put... That thing keeps cutting off, I can't see. There we go. It was knowledge. They put the paper on the tree. What do you mean, Ricky? Let me keep going here. Maybe we'll get some context clues.
Lord, is it I?
Lord, is it I? He who dipped his hand with me in the dish will betray me.
Okay.
The Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born.
Yeah, that's really harsh right there.
Then Judas, who was betraying him, answered,
Rabbi, is it I?
You have said it.
Dang.
And as they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to the disciples.
Take, eat. This is my body.
Then he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them.
Drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on, until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom.
And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will...
The coins was coins. Yeah. They I know. They paid Judas 30 30 coins, but I was just confused. I thought you were saying that there was like some connection between the woman, the oil, and the 30 pieces of silver. I thought you were saying that there was some connection there, but I don't think there is a connection there, right? But my main question was, do you think that Judas was tied to his fate? Or do you think he could have made the choice of not betraying Jesus? You know, because Jesus said it would have been better if you were never even born. So that means if the day he was born, he was tied to that fate, you know? Or was he just saying, you know, because you're going to betray me, your fate is everlasting punishment. Therefore, not being born would probably be better because you wouldn't be able to sin then, you know. It's all good, Ricky. Don't worry.
All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee.
Peter answered,
Even if all are made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble.
Assuredly, I say to you that this night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times.
Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you.
and so
I mean, this is a similar situation, right? Jesus made Peter aware that he will betray him 3 times. So, is Peter tied to his fate that he will betray him now that Jesus said that he will betray him? Is he tied to that because Jesus predicted the future saying that you're going to betray me? So now is Peter tied to that? Or did he, because now he can make a choice. I'm not going to betray, or I'm not going to deny you. Have I been saying betray with Peter? I'm not going to deny you 3 times. He can make that choice. Or he can deny him 3 times, right? Because now he knows. So the only way for this to work is like if they make that choice on their own volition, you know? They make that choice. Judas makes the choice himself to betray Jesus despite knowing that Jesus knows and that Jesus brought it to light. And Peter makes the choice to deny Jesus knowing that Jesus knows and knowing that and after Jesus warned him that he will.
I will go before you to Galilee.
Peter answered,
Even if all are made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble.
Assuredly, I say to you that this night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times.
Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you.
and so said all the disciples. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane.
Sit here while I go and pray over there.
And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed.
Ricky's saying, does the number 3 pop up in the Old Testament? Jesus knew from the Old Testament. There's like those biblical numbers, right? Number 3, number 7, 12. That's always been interesting to me. Like, why are these numbers considered biblical? Well, we know why they're considered biblical numbers because they're used multiple times. But why are they used multiple times? What's so special about those numbers? I mean, maybe there's nothing special about them, but why does God work in 3s, 7s, and 12s?
Sit here while I go and pray over there.
And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed.
My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me.
He went a little farther and fell on his face.
Oh, my Father,
Yeah,
if
it's
it
a
is
lot.
possible, let this cup pass from me.
Like, did Jesus not know that he was going to be resurrected? He was just scared to die, you know? I mean, not just forget about dying. He knows it's going to be torture, the pain, you know? Being whipped like that, being crucified. It's not an easy way to die. So he's not just scared of dying. It's not just, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be resurrected. I don't want to die, right? I mean, I'm sure he knew he was going to be resurrected, but it's just he was scared probably of the pain itself. That whole experience is not pleasant at all.
Let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will.
Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Peter,
What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Again, a second time, he went away and prayed,
O my Father, this cup cannot pass away from me unless I drink it. Your will be done.
And he came.
It takes a lot to
and
say
found
that
them
and to actually
asleep again,
believe it
for
100%.
their eyes were heavy. So he left them, went away again, and prayed the third time, saying,
That must be hard also. This is Jesus' lowest moment. And he just wants some support from his friends, from his disciples, and they're falling asleep.
saying the same words. Then he came to his disciples and said to them,
Are you still sleeping and resting?
Like, how are you resting? I'm going through so
Behold,
much
the hour
pain
is at
right now.
hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise,
They don't realize what's about to happen.
let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.
And while he was still speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now his betrayer had given them a sign.
Whomever I kiss, he is the one. Seize him.
Immediately he went up to Jesus
Greetings, Rabbi.
and kissed him.
Friend, why have you come?
To do that,
Then
to betray Jesus, making that choice after already being exposed, that's a lot. That means he was really convicted in his choice. So I really want to know, or either that or he was tied to his fate. I don't want to believe that. I shouldn't say I don't want to believe that, because if that's what happened, then that's what happened. But I really want to know his motivation.
they came and laid hands on Jesus and took him. And suddenly, one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword, struck the servant of the high priest.
So Matthew doesn't even say who, right? Because it's Peter, right? Matthew doesn't even say who.
And cut off his ear.
Put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the scriptures be fulfilled, that it must happen thus?
In that hour, Jesus said to the multitudes,
Have you come out as against a robber, with swords and clubs to take me? I sat daily with you,
Yeah, I
teaching in
know.
the temple, and you did not seize me. But all this was done that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled.
Dang.
Then all the disciples forsook him and fled, and those who had laid hold of Jesus led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance to the high priest's courtyard, and he went in and sat with the servants to see the end. Now the chief priests, the elders, and all the council sought false testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Even though many false witnesses came forward, they found none.
Dang, nothing
But at
stuck.
last 2 false witnesses came forward.
This fellow said, I'm able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.
And the high priest arose and said to him,
Do you answer nothing? What is it these men testify against you?
But Jesus kept silent. And the high priest answered and said to him,
I put you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God.
It is as you said. Nevertheless, I say to you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of heaven.
Then the high priest tore his clothes.
He has spoken blasphemy. What further need do we have of witnesses? Look, now you have heard his blasphemy. What do you think?
He is deserving of death.
Then they spat in his face and beat him, and others struck him with the palms of their hands.
Prophesy to us, Christ. Who is the one who struck you?
So they're blinded by their perceptions, by the way they thought the Messiah would be like. And they're here beating on the Son of God, the one that they've been waiting for generations for.
Now Peter sat outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him.
You also were with Jesus of Galilee.
But he denied it before them all.
I do not know what you are saying.
Come on, Peter.
And when he had gone out to the gateway, another girl
Why
saw
deny?
him
Why
and said
deny
to
it?
those who were
What
there,
is she gonna do?
This fellow also was with Jesus of Nazareth.
He doesn't want to
But
be.
again he denied with an oath.
I do not know the man.
Because Jesus was arrested, he didn't want to be involved in any of that stuff. He didn't want to get in
A
trouble.
little later, those who stood by came up and said to Peter,
Surely you also are one of them, for your speech betrays you.
Then he began to curse and swear.
I do not know the man.
And Peter remembered the word of Jesus.
Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times.
So he went out and wept.
So he forgot about what Jesus said. So that makes sense. Because if Jesus' words were in his mind while he was saying it, then that wouldn't work. Because why would he? You know, that would change the motive completely, or he was actually tied to his fate and he couldn't change it. But here he forgot what Jesus said, and only after he heard the rooster crow, he remembered, like, oh shoot, I just really do that? Oh, that's it, right? Yeah. Well, that's it. We just finished 25 to 26. We had some questions. We had some mix-up there a little bit with Judas and the 30 pieces of silver. But yeah, I don't think the price of the oil and the 30 pieces of silver there is no connection there. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. We just finished 25 to 26. Tomorrow, we're going to see the fate of Judas and the crucifixion. So that's going to be an intense reading. So hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. I think we raised a few good questions. We got them pretty much answered. We got in a bit of a mix up, but we resolved that, so that's good. So yeah, anyways, yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Hope you enjoyed today's reading. Tomorrow we'll jump into chapter 27, see the fate of Judas and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and yeah, so tomorrow's gonna be tomorrow's a big day. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.